أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So today's topic is actually a continuation of about the reality of jinn. Please watch that before you come to this, because we don't want to repeat. So for those of you who haven't seen that, please, it is online, it is on YouTube, and it's called The Reality of Jinn by myself. So if you can just YouTube that, Google it, or find it, listen to that lecture. We would have hoped you would have listened before you come. Now that you're here, I can't tell you to leave and come back, but inshallah, I'm not going to be repeating much of what we did in the other one, which is The Reality of Jinn. And that is because the topic of sihr is actually intrinsically related to that of jinn. The two go hand in hand. You cannot have sihr without understanding what jinn are. And therefore, it's impossible to understand the reality of sihr without understanding the reality of jinn. So there is so much to talk about, wallahi, that even one lecture will not do justice, and it's very likely that this part 2 will actually be part 2 of maybe part 3 and 4. It might actually move on later on, because there's too much to discuss in, even, mashallah, we have a long lecture today, but still it's too much to discuss in one lecture. So let us begin. What I'm going to be doing at the beginning is we'll just define quickly what is sihr linguistically, and then move on to 2 of the main stories in the Quran about sihr. 2 of the main stories in the Quran about sihr, and then based on these 2 stories we'll extract what is some of the benefits and realities of sihr. And we began by talking about what is sihr linguistically. Linguistically, sihr means that which is hidden. That which is hidden, that which we don't understand why, or it is covered. So that is why in Arabic you call the darkness of the night, what do you call it, O Arabs? Sahar, right? Because it's dark, you don't know what is happening. And that's why when you eat at that time of the night, it is called suhoor, right? Because you're eating at the darkness of the night. So the term for suhoor, or sehri we call it in Urdu, is actually from the same root as sihr, not because there's any sihr in suhoor, but because suhoor is eaten at a time of darkness. So it's the darkness is called sahar. And that darkness means you don't know what's happening. That's why it's called darkness, sahar. So sihr means that which takes place and you don't know why it's taking place. The cause is unknown. This is really what the linguistic meaning of sihr is. And from a theological, from an Islamic standpoint, sihr is to invoke the aid of the jinn to do something that appears to be from our world supernatural. So the jinn will cause something to happen, and because we do not see the jinn, so it seems as if we don't understand, even though once we understand sihr, we do understand how it happens. But for those who don't study Islamic theology, it will appear, how did this happen? Where did this come from? And that is why sihr is called sihr. Now there are 2 main stories that we're going to concentrate on before we get to the meat of the matter. And these stories are introductions to the reality of sihr. And both of them are Quranic stories about sihr. The first of them is the story of, what is the most famous story of magic in the Quran? Musa. The most famous story of magic in the Quran deals with Musa. And there are multiple narrations in the Quran, multiple ayat I should say, about the reality of magic. And some of them, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that وَلَقَدْ أَرَيْنَاهُ آيَاتِنَا كُلَّهَا, we showed Fir'aun all of our signs, فَكَذَّبَ وَأَبَى قَالَ أَجِئْتَنَا لِتُخْرِجَنَا مِنْ أَرْضِنَا بِسِحْرِكَ يَا مُوسَى. Fir'aun said that, O Musa, have you come to drive us out of our land through your magic? فَلَنَأْتِيَنَّكَ بِسِحْرٍ مِثْلِهِ, we shall bring a magic just like yours. فَلَنَأْتِيَنَّكَ بِسِحْرٍ مِثْلِهِ فَاجْعَلْ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكَ مَوْعِدًا, so let us set a time that we both agree to. فَاجْعَلْ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكَ مَوْعِدًا, let's set a time that we will both come together, and we will invite the people. Suwa, all of them will come together to see what we are doing. So Musa said, قَالَ مَوْعِدُكُمْ يَوْمُ الزِّينَةِ, your appointment will be on the day of festivities. They must have had an Eid They must have had some major celebration coming up. So Musa said, the very day that everybody's going to be coming together, Yawm Zina, that is the day we are going to have our showdown. I'm going to bring what I have, and you bring what you have. And the people will be all over there. قَالَ مَوْعِدُكُمْ يَوْمُ الزِّينَةِ وَأَنْ يُحْشَرَ النَّاسُ ضُحًى. And let the people gather at the time of duha, which is early morning, so 9 a.m., 10 a.m. At that time, they will all gather together. فَجَمَعَ فِرْعَوْنُ كَيْدَهُ ثُمَّ أَتَى. So Fir'aun gathered together his lands and his plans, and he came back. Now, this is Surah Taha I'm quoting you. In Surah A'raf, Allah tells us that what did Fir'aun do, and also in so is it Surah Ma'idah, which other surah I'm not remembering right now, but Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us what did Fir'aun do. Fir'aun said, فَأَرْسَلَ فِرْعَوْنُ فِي الْمَدَائِنِ حَاشِرِينَ. Fir'aun sent criers throughout all of Egypt. What were these criers supposed to do? Bring بِكُلِّ سَاحِرٍ عَلِيمٍ. Bring forth every knowledgeable sahir, not just a mediocre sahir. He wanted the cream of the crop. He wanted the experts to come. فَجُمِعَ السَّحَرَ. All of the Sahara came. And this is in the palace of Fir'aun. This is in the palace of Fir'aun. And it is understood from the story that the magicians would have concocted amongst themselves, they're planning, they're getting together their magic. And the magicians say to Fir'aun, أَإِنَّ لَنَا لَأَجْرًا إِن كُنَّا نَحْنُ الْغَالِبِينَ. Are we going to get some prize if we win? So the magicians, even though they are talking to the most powerful man alive, they want to know what's in it for us. What are we going to get? And so Fir'aun says, yes indeed, you will get some prize and you shall be لَمِنَ الْمُقَرَّبِينَ. I will make you close to me. Meaning there might be more opportunities later on. So if you pass this, you will get what you want and you will get a high position. Now this is not in Surah Taha, this is in Surah Al-Ma'idah and also in Surah Al-A'raf. So we get back to Surah Taha, that now the magicians come in front. On one side is the magician, on one side is Musa alayhi salam. And then Musa says to the magicians, وَيْلَكُمْ لَا تَفْتَرُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا فَيُسْحِتَكُمْ بِعَذَابٍ وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنِ افْتَرَى. Woe to you! Do not lie against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Musa accuses the magicians of being a fraud. So Musa says, you're lying. And don't lie right in front of Allah and lie against Allah as if you have some powers. So Musa accuses the magicians of being frauds. This is an important point here. You're not real. You're pretending to have something you don't have. And you don't actually have it. And so Musa says, fear Allah. You're lying right in front of Allah about Allah, meaning as if you have some superhuman or divine powers. You don't have them. And the magicians gathered together and they said, which one of us is going to go first? Which one of us is going to be first? So Musa said, Bal alqu, you go ahead and do what you want. Bal alqu. So فَأَلْقَوْا حِبَالَهُمْ وَعِصِيَّهُمْ. The magicians threw their sticks and their ropes. فَأَلْقَوْا حِبَالَهُمْ وَعِصِيَّهُمْ. They threw their sticks and their ropes. وَقَالُوا بِعِزَّةِ فِرْعَوْنَ إِنَّا لَنَحْنُ الْغَالِبُونَ. And they said, by the izzah of Fir'aun, we are going to win. So they did not invoke Allah. There's another point. The magicians never invoke Allah. The magicians invoked someone other than Allah. And in this case, they're invoking a false god. Because what did Fir'aun say he is? Fir'aun said he is God himself. So they invoked a false god. And so Allah Azza wa Jal says that, and this is in Surah Al-A'raf, خُيِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ سِحْرِهِمْ أَنَّهَا تَسْعَى. They made it appear from their magic as if the ropes were moving. As if the ropes were moving. So, and another verse, Allah says, سَحَرُوا أَعْيُنَ النَّاسِ. They bewitched the eyes of the people. So this shows us that at some occasions, not all of them, magic is not actually real. It's an illusion. Because according to the ayat, the ropes were not moving. سَحَرُوا أَعْيُنَ النَّاسِ. They bewitched the eyes of the people. And in another verse, they made it appear through their magic that the ropes were wiggling. And therefore the ropes were not actually wiggling. The ropes were not moving. The magic was in to make it appear as if they were moving. And by the way, this is street magic. It's very basic magic. Because remember, what did Musa do? The Musa converted his staff to an actual snake. Right? This is what he did, a real live snake. And Fir'aun saw this. And the minister saw this. But these weren't the magicians. The magicians didn't see the initial miracle. So the magicians are told he can make his staff appear like a snake. So the magician said, no worry, we can do the same as well, don't worry. So the magicians plotted and planned. And the magician said, we can also do this. So they threw their ropes and they didn't actually forget converting them to snakes. The ropes didn't even move. But the sihr made it appear to the eyes of the people that they had moved. So when Musa saw all of these ropes moving around, he himself became worried. Can I match this or not? فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ خِيفَةً مُوسَى. So Musa himself became scared. فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ قُلْنَا لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْأَعْلَى. So this shows us that magic is so powerful that perhaps even believers in Allah and prophets can feel trepidation at it. Musa knows it's not true. He doesn't believe in the magic. But it is so powerful that he himself is wondering, can I match it or not? Right? So, فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ خِيفَةَ مُوسَى قُلْنَا لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْأَعْلَى. Allah said, don't worry, you are going to win. وَأَلْقِ مَا فِي يَمِينِكَ تَلْقَفْ مَا صَنَعُوا. Go ahead and throw what is in your hands. It shall swallow up and destroy what they have done. And so when Musa threw his staff, it didn't just pretend to wiggle. It became a massive live python or whatever, a massive snake. It became a living, breathing snake. Now, the most amazing thing happens, we all know, that when the Sahara saw this live snake, instantaneously, فَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةُ سُجَّدًا قَالُوا آمَنَّا بِرَبِّ هَارُونَ وَمُوسَى. The magicians, who are the experts in this craft, when they see what Musa is coming with, they realize this is not magic. This is the real deal. And that is the creation of life. And so from being the worst of the worst, they convert to the best of the best. And Fir'aun is of course humiliated. Can you imagine? These are the creme de la creme of the whole Egyptian society of magicians, right? And by the way, the art of magic reached one of its zeniths in the time of ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt was immersed in magic, in sihr. And can you imagine, it is my hypothesis, and Allah knows best, but I can't see anything else happening that would have done this. It is my hypothesis that never in the history of humanity have such a large group of magicians, actual Sahara, collaborated together for a project of such a high quality even. Because Egypt was known for its magic. And generally speaking, Sahara don't cooperate together. Just like, you know, the mafia, whatever, they don't cooperate. Each one is happy with what he's doing and they don't want to cooperate. Now they have a higher power, Fir'aun, who's willing to pay them big bucks to cooperate. So he gets the team of the best specialists in the world, of a society that is known to this day to have excelled in sihr. And they are all cooperating. And so this is what they can bring forth. And lo and behold, in front of Fir'aun, the height of humiliation, they all reject Fir'aun. And they say, we believe in the God of Musa. And so Fir'aun does only what he can do, which is a tyrant. He says, I'll kill you all. And look at the iman of these people, literally in 1 second, how it has gone from where to where. In 1 second, they said, La dayr, go ahead, do what you want. Because this is the real God who has done this. And we're going to go back to him. And we have to believe in the Rabb of Musa. Fir'aun says, لَأُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ فِي جُذُوعِ النَّخْلِ. I'm going to crucify you on date palms. وَلَتَعْلَمُنَّ. And you're going to see who amongst us is the more powerful. And so they said, لَا ضَيْرْ إِنَّا إِلَى رَبِّنَا مُنْقَلِبُونَ. Go ahead. In the end of the day, we're going to go back to him and not you. Our souls will go back to him and not you. So What this really shows us is that magicians and magic is some type of illusion that in reality, magic does not cause something which is supernatural. Now I'll explain this. Don't just misunderstand me. What the jinns do, what the magicians do, is something that might appear supernatural to us, but in reality it is not competing with Allah's power. Anything that the jinn and the magicians do is something that is utterly trivial compared to the actual power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once we understand what sihr and jinn is, then wallahi, we're not going to be scared of it at all. And one of the goals of this class, and every time I teach this, I say this, one of the goals of teaching you what is the reality of sihr is, when you study it, you will no longer be that terrified of it. You will be as terrified of it as you are of some type of, maybe a snake or a predator, something like this. It's going to be a natural fear. And it's not going to be something that is, oh, I don't understand it, it's supernatural. And that fear, inshallah, cannot come from the heart of an actual believer. So we learn from the story of Musa that there is something called sihr. And one type of sihr is to bewilder the eyes of the people. Now this doesn't mean that sihr is never something that can happen that's actual. Maybe another type of sihr can cause it to move. Now one can say, what's the big deal of causing a rope to move? That seems to be very trivial. The big deal was not in the rope moving. The big deal was in bewildering and bewitching the eyes of millions of people. That's the quantity of sihr that was done. That indeed some type of sihr is more powerful than causing a rope to move. In reality, some types of sihr is more powerful than causing a rope to move. But what was powerful about this group was they did a mass illusion over hundreds and thousands, maybe millions of people. And that was the power that they had. But they couldn't actually create real life. So when they saw real life, instantaneously they accepted Islam.